You're listening to the Mike on the Right podcast.
Do you think we could just go 1 week without America being the Wild West of global politics? This war between Donald Trump and Elon Musk is completely and totally bonkers. You know, there's a bunch of theories out there about the whole thing. That the whole thing's an act, that it's a show, maybe it's to distract from something else. I don't know what to think. I don't believe it's an act, based on what's been said and what's been done. I think there's a split, but you know what, folks? I don't even want to get into it. It is a delight to have you here. You are listening to episode 6 of the Mike on the Right podcast. I am your host, Mike Neal, broadcasting from the heart of the heartland in central Indiana, the great Hoosier State. I'm so thankful that you're listening. I'm so thankful for your support. Please like, share, and subscribe these episodes and the short videos that you see throughout the week. I greatly appreciate you being here. Let's talk about what's going to happen in this episode. We've got a lot to do, lots to talk about, and of course, you know, there's already news today about the jobs report being better than expected again. Better than expected again, with tariffs and trade wars and global conflicts and everything else going on. The United States and its economy is resilient. But that's not why we're here today. That's just some new news that came out. The experts were stunned, as they always are, especially when it comes to economists. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. In this episode, we are going to discuss why Democrats and a couple Republicans are coming after your credit card reward points. For me, I don't like that at all. President Trump announced a new travel ban from certain countries to the United States. Why did he do it? What that really means. And we're also going to talk about the antisemitic terror attack that happened in Colorado not long ago and what is causing the rise in these events in America, all coming at you right now. So let's get right to the point. No pun intended on credit card points. Why are Democrats and a couple Republicans coming after our credit card reward points? Well, let's talk about a bill that is currently before the United States Congress that has been here before, and there have been iterations before of bills like this. It's called the Credit Card Competition Act, or the CCCA, or I'm going to call it the Triple CA. You'll know what I'm talking about. This bill is a bipartisan piece of legislation introduced by Senator Dick Durbin from Illinois and Roger Marshall from Kansas. And what it would do is it would require banks over $100 billion in assets to enable credit card transactions to be routed over at least 2 unaffiliated networks. So when we talk about credit card processing networks, you're going to know the big 2, Visa and MasterCard. There are others that don't belong to that network, Amex, American Express, Discover. But there are a lot of other smaller type processors out there. And what this bill would do is it would force institutions of a certain size, financial institutions of a certain size, to use these networks. And the goal, as is written in the bill and as spoken by Senators Durbin and Marshall, is to increase competition in the credit card payment processing market and to reduce those swipe fees that merchants pay. And what that really means is we're paying it. We're paying it as consumers, of course. That's that percentage that gets tacked on. Most people build that into their cost of business. If you're going to a restaurant, that price is already in there. But there are some places that are saying, hey, we'll give you a discount if you use cash. I'm a millennial. I don't carry cash. Or you're going to pay this additional processing fee, and essentially it's just covering the cost of that swipe. The supporters also claim that it would break up the Visa MasterCard market dominance and it would lower costs for merchants and consumers. On the face, especially as a conservative who is pro-competition in any market, that sounds good. That does sound good. But there's a lot more to it than that. Let's talk about the brief history of the bill. This bill has been talked about now for about 3 years. In 2022, it was introduced. It was reintroduced in 2023. It failed twice. But what this is modeled after is some previous legislation about a decade and a half ago in 2010 called Dodd-Frank. And there was an amendment to that bill by the U.S. Senator Dick Durbin from Illinois, the guy that we're talking about now, which at that point was to regulate debit card interchange fees. Now, Dodd-Frank, as you may recall, if you know your history, that was the response of Congress to the 2008 financial crisis. The recession, all of it. This bill was supposed to increase regulation in financial markets because of that recession. Durbin's amendment in that bill affected debit card transaction fees. And that's what's central to the current debate today, because this is being used by the proponents as a justification. Hey, we've been here before. We've done it before. Now we're just going to apply it to credit cards. But it's also a cautionary tale. And now we're talking about this bill again, which is why we're now looking back at the history of it. And we're going to get into that in a second. Let me talk to you about the pros and cons of the bill, and then I'm going to give you my take. And I want to talk to you the history about the Dodd-Frank portion, the Durbin Amendment and the Dodd-Frank bill back in 2010, and what it happened then and what it could mean for today. So again, pros of the bill. Lower fees on merchants, which means lower fees on us. Studies show that could drop about $15 billion annually in credit card swipe fees, which should then, in theory, pass that savings on to the consumer. It promotes competition by ending the duopoly of Visa and MasterCard. This is a supposed support for small business. It reduces financial burdens on them because it's usually the smaller companies who are paying those fees that it affects more because they have less volume, which may mean bulk fees. Bulk transactions can maybe get a cheaper rate. Like you might get a better rate at Walmart than you're going to get at Joe's appliance shop. I don't know. So that's supposed to then pass that savings on from the businesses to the consumers, to us. And it does have some bipartisan support, including supporters like the National Retail Federation. Let's talk about the cons of the bill, the critics that have been against this bill for years. First thing, and this is what bugs me the most personally, and I don't want to just say my support or my dissatisfaction with the bill based on this, but for me, this is a threat to credit card rewards. Now, my wife and I are Dave Ramsey people. We are Dave Ramsey people almost completely to the core, except for credit cards. We are responsible enough that we like to put everything on a credit card. We get credit card points. We pay it off at the end of each month, or we pay it multiple times a month. We don't get charged any interest. And there's safety to that. By not using a debit card doesn't expose your bank account potentially to fraud. The credit card is much more isolated. We use credit cards. Sorry, Dave Ramsey. Please don't judge me. If you're listening, of course. But this is a threat to credit card reward points. Banks may scale back the cashback, miles, points, programs to recoup that lost revenue. Airlines specifically say that their loyalty programs will be affected. And we are American Airlines folks. We have American Airlines co-branded credit cards. We don't like that. There are data security concerns. Less established networks, some of these networks that have not put the money into its cybersecurity or to whatever type of security that it needs, may not have the same fraud protections. These smaller networks, in fact, may not have that. Don't have the resources for that. And so we're exposing ourselves potentially to increased levels of fraud or hacks or cybersecurity issues. And not that the big guys can't have that, of course. We see that all over the United States and the world. But when we're talking about finances, when we're talking about money moving, we want the best cybersecurity. We want the best infrastructure that we can get on that. There's no guarantee of the consumer benefit. And I want to get into this in a little detail in just a second. But when the Dodd-Frank piece moved, the Federal Reserve of Richmond did a study and said that when the debit card transaction fees were capped or limited, and the debit card companies or those who process debit cards had that fee reduced, merchants didn't lower their cost, didn't lower the cost of goods. They pocketed that money. We'll talk about that in a second. It hurts access to credit. Revenue loss could cause banks to tighten lending, hurting consumers with lower credit scores. So here's my position on the whole thing. This is a bad policy. I am a pro-business, pro-competition conservative. But there is way too much here, and we know that some regulation is good. Public safety regulation is good. Financial market regulation, in some respect, is good. But there are steps too far, and this is it. Consumers lose, and merchants win. And I'll tell you in a second. Again, back in that Dodd-Frank piece in 2010, what happened when they capped those fees? We didn't get that money back. We didn't save money as consumers. It's just a failed history. Payments could be less secure. It destroys those incentives. It helps big retail, and it hurts local merchants. The real winners here are those mega chains. The real losers are the everyday card holders who rely on the rewards to offset costs. And of course, market interference never works. Never works. Let's talk about that 2010 bill. So Dodd-Frank was introduced, the amendment was put in, and it capped debit card interchange fees. And it was intended to save merchants money and lower prices for consumers. But what actually happened is institutions lowered their debit reward programs. They vanished. So you could get 1.5% cash back on your debit card by using your debit card. Obviously, there was security to debit cards over cash. There still is today. A lot of those perks disappeared. So some people stopped using debit cards. They moved to credit cards, or maybe they used cash. But banks adjusted by raising other costs. So free checking accounts were scaled back. Minimum balance requirements were increased to make up for revenue losses. But that no price relief for consumers. Despite the billions in merchant fees that were supposedly saved, there was no meaningful reduction in consumer prices. Some retailers even raised prices, directly contradicting the law stated in the intervention. Government is great at retreading their own bad ideas that have failed. And the Credit Card Competition Act is the same as the Durbin Amendment in the Dodd-Frank bill. It was a disaster then, and this is shaping up to be a disaster now. Why are we trusting government in this way again? But let's look. Don't take my word for it. There was a study by the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond, post-Durbin Amendment, post-2010, only 1 point in the debit card debacle, only 1.2% of retailers lowered prices after the interchange fee cap took effect. 77% of merchants in this study kept prices the same, while more than 21% increased prices. Fewer than 10% of merchants saw lower debit card acceptance costs. Many saw higher costs, especially small ticket sellers. Again, it always hurts the little guy. Ridiculous. The conclusion is that the policy enriched merchants and did little or nothing for consumers, and it punished banks, and it punished cardholders, and in the end, it hurt consumers. I'm against the credit card competition. You think as you wish. I hope that I gave you the pros and cons. I have a position. I'm against the Credit Card Competition Act, not just for my credit card reward points, but because the safety and the security of the network systems, the systems that clear these payments, smaller guys, if they can get up to snuff and they can meet, regulatory security and get regulatory approval for those kind of things, more power to them. I'm not saying that Visa and MasterCard should have the market. I'm just saying that this is an area that needs to be closely regulated in the right way, and putting these price caps, putting these merchant fee caps, is only going to hurt the consumer, and we know that because it already has. This bill is modeled after that 2010 Durbin Amendment, Dodd-Frank, and it failed to deliver on its promise. And today, it's still screwing consumers. Let's not do that again. Now, let's move on to a lighter topic. President Trump has announced a new travel ban. This happened just a couple days ago. On June 4th, 2025, President Trump announced that a new travel ban targeting entry from several nations identified as high risk for terrorism, cartel activity, or visa fraud have a cap or a ban. There are two layers here. The ban is framed as a national security measure focused on restoring law and order in America, particularly at the southern border and in the Middle East and North Africa regions, areas where there's a hotbed of terrorist activity that continues to affect the world today. This applies to both asylum seekers and visa applicants from nations deemed uncooperative in verifying identities or criminal records. The federal government, for all its faults, is trying to do its due diligence in the area of immigration. And of course, the United States wants to stand up and help. It is a shining beacon. It is a shining lamp on a hill. It is a beacon for freedom and prosperity. But we have to do it the right way. And when we have folks that want to come into this country for whatever reason, who we can't identify who they are, we can't check their background, we can't do those things, we have to be careful letting them into this country, because while we want to help people, we don't want to negatively affect those that live here, including those that have already sought asylum and who are here or who have been confirmed through the process. So the Department of Homeland Security and the State Department will update this list every 90 days based on the National Threat Assessment. So this list will be ongoing. So people are going to be added, some people are going to come off while they work through this process, and there will be certain exceptions, of course, for green card holders, dual nationals, urgent humanitarian crises. There are, of course, ways to get around it if necessary. There are 12 fully banned countries. There are 7 partially restricted countries. Fully banned places like Afghanistan, Chad, Haiti, Iran, Libya. Some of the countries that are partially restricted, such as Cuba and Laos, Sierra Leone, Turkmenistan, Venezuela. These are countries that we all know today, if you're paying any attention to geopolitical situations across the globe, that there's plenty of trouble. And again, it's not that the United States or President Trump doesn't want to help them. It's that we have to be smart about this so that we don't hurt ourselves and hurt our own citizens, or again, those who are here legally for some other sort of asylum, whether it's in a country on this list or a country that's not on this list. We want to make sure those folks are protected. This is a parallel to the first term travel bans in 2017 under President Trump's first administration. As you recall, there was an executive order which restricted entry from several, as the media reported, Muslim-majority countries. That ban, of course, was not related to religion, though there were suits in court related to that, faced a lot of legal challenges, but the Supreme Court ultimately upheld a revised version of that executive order. That was in the case Trump v. Hawaii 2018, for my lawyer friends who want to go back and read the brief. But both bans, both the previous one and now, rely on the same statutory authority under the Immigration and Nationality Act, which allows the president to suspend entry for national security reasons. And these are very specific. We know today, Afghanistan and Iran and Sierra Leone and countries in Africa, there is a hotbed of activity. There's civil war, there's unrest, but there's also terrorism and terrorism training. We know that that's happening today. It's been happening for decades. So this is not a Muslim ban. This does not have anything to do with race. It has everything to do with the situations going on in those countries. And while, yes, we are called to help people, the United States is the greatest country on the earth. It is the greatest helper on the earth. It is the greatest investor into poorer countries on the earth. We do more to help people than anybody else. We just need to continue to make sure that we are not bringing anything negative upon our citizens and those that are here being protected by the United States. Of course, the rationale for the ban continues as we talk about national security, border crisis, terror threats, visa overstays, national security issues, just kind of generally broadly as we've been talking about. All of those things are important. But let me say this, there are going to be some folks here that may be disgusted with me. Well, I can't believe that you would be for President Trump's ban, and you're a Christian, and you're called to help everybody you can help. Sure, I am called to help people. I know I am. I'm called to public service. I'm called as a Christian at my church to help and to lead others and to, give to those who are less fortunate. There's a number of things that I'm called to do, and I do those things. But I'm not talking here without heart. I know that there are people all across the world that need our help. This ban, and hopefully we'll create a program to, one, work with these countries to get this information, but two, maybe even find other ways to vet these folks. This is only one piece to the puzzle. And this is where I want those that may be critics of what I just said about being pro this ban. The United States needs comprehensive immigration reform, period. What we're doing today alone is not the solution. We need stronger vetting. We need shorter processing times. I had a friend, it took him 11 years to get his green card. He was a productive citizen in society, but he wasn't legal. He came here on a visa. He was here legally, but he was not legally a citizen at that point. 11 years. It's ridiculous. We need clear guidelines, we need specific limits, and we need zero tolerance for going around the process and the law, period. The entire system needs overhaul, and I wish that there would be a leader in Congress that would stand up and say, you know what, enough is enough. Let's get past the political rhetoric. Let's get past all the organizations and special interest on both sides. Let's sit down and let's do it all. Okay, great. We need to lower processing times. We need to strengthen our vetting process, and we need to have zero tolerance for those who break the rules. Compromise is not the word I'm looking for, but there is a deal to be made here that is right for America, and it is right for those who we are trying to help. This is not discrimination. This is not discrimination. This is not discrimination. There are, of course, humanitarian concerns. There should be humanitarian concerns. But we need to do this again, right? We need to do this safely. And this is going to give us the opportunity to continue to regulate that. Period. I know that people say that this may not be effective. Every piece that we do, securing the southern border, limiting countries where terrorism is coming, outside of its borders, and making sure we properly vet people, ensuring that we have security both domestically and abroad. That's the answer to the effectiveness. No one thing is fully 100% effective or the answer. Again, full-scale immigration reform with all these other pieces, that's what's effective. It's all of the above strategy, not just one item. So I support the ban, but on top of that, I support 100% tearing apart the system and rebuilding it, immigration reform that helps people, clearly vets people, has proper regulations and limits and guidelines, and ensures that we are prosecuting and removing those who go around the process. Shorten those amounts of time that it takes to get somebody here legally going through the process. All of the above. All of the above. Last topic I have for you today, and I don't want to run long, but this is really the most important of the three to me today, and it is the stark reminder of the rising anti-Semitism in America and across the world, and the latest large-scale version of that. The example of that is what just happened on the 1st of June. There was a peaceful pro-Israel rally in Boulder, Colorado, and those folks were violently attacked. They were rallying for the release of hostages that continue to be held in the unjust war of Hamas against Israel, where the terrorism group runs and controls the Palestinian apparatus. The assailant, Muhammad Solomon, a 45-year-old Egyptian national who had overstayed his visa, used Molotov cocktails and a makeshift flamethrower to try and set people on fire. He injured 15 people, including an 88-year-old man who was a Holocaust survivor. God help us. He was shouting, "Free Palestine," during the assault and admitted to planning the attack for over a year. He intended a mass shooting, but was blocked from accessing firearms due to his immigration status. Great, but not enough. He faces, at the time of my research, 118 charges, including 28 counts of attempted murder and a federal hate crimes charge. Throw the book at this man and throw him out of this country. The motivations behind this attack are clear. It's driven by anti-Semitic, anti-Zionist sentiments. The attack reflects a disturbing trend where anti-Israel rhetoric escalates into violent anti-Semitism. It's not even an opinion. It's violence. This incident is not isolated, and it's part of a broader surge in anti-Semitic acts across the United States and the world, the most recent iteration all stemming from this October 7, 2023 Hamas attack on Israel, which to this day, not all the hostages are released. To this day, Hamas is looking for ways to hurt people. To this day, the United Nations, the most worthless organization in the history of man, who supports those who would come against Israel, who hates Israel, continues to stand idly by and do absolutely nothing. Although, well, of course, we hate all hate. Great. You should hate all hate. But your actions speak louder than your words, and your members and your organization and your Secretary General speak out against Israel defending itself. And when I say defending himself, it's not just physically defending themselves. It is going out and finishing off these terrorists and these cowards who continue to kill their people in Israel and around the world. It's sick. And the United Nations has failed its charter, it has failed our country, and it has failed its members and the world. This kind of rhetoric, amplified by the media across the world, of course, amplified by those who hate Israel around the world, is what is surging this. When we don't stand up and say Hamas is evil, Hamas is terrible, Iran is evil, whoever, Hezbollah, all these terrorist organizations who over the years and over the decades have continued to perpetrate this war against Israelis and against Jews around the world, they're showing up right here in our own country, and they're doing it here. And we've got folks who stand out in front of our own state capitol here in Indiana, free Palestine. And I get it. There are Palestinian people who are innocent. There are Palestinian people who are hurting. But the controlling entity in the Gaza Strip, especially, was Hamas. Is Hamas. Not anymore. Was Hamas. And they had to be dealt with. And we cannot stand by and let this injustice continue. Public spaces like this are being overrun. Synagogues defaced. Vandalism. I'm almost speechless. We cannot normalize this. Anti-Zionist rhetoric on college campuses and social media platforms is what blurs these lines. And what I say in America is you have freedom of speech, but you do not have freedom of consequence. What's going on in college campuses? Talk about it all you want. When you start putting action to those stupid ideas, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. We can't have it. And don't tell me I'm heartless. Don't tell me this is not a Christian position. There are times when Jesus flipped the table. Those times are reserved for very specific times. And I'm flipping the table right now. People like the United Nations, people like Iran, people like Columbia University, who let this crap go on, perpetrate what happened in Boulder, Colorado. We've got to stop it. We've got to stop it. For me, supporting Israel is not just a political stance. It's a stand against the global rise of anti-Semitism. And pro-Israeli advocacy helps counteract the narratives that fuel anti-Semitic sentiments and violence. So this is my call to action for our nation. We need to continue to strengthen those immigration policies. That's part of it. Stricter visa enforcement and vetting process to prevent individuals with extremist ideologies from entering this country or remaining in this country. This dude had an expired visa. He wasn't supposed to be here. If we had had a system that could kick him out, we wouldn't have had this happen. We need to promote accountability, hold political leaders and institutions accountable for addressing and condemning anti-Semitism without equivocation, within the bounds of the Constitution and the law. We support free speech, but we support responsibility too. And you are not immune from the consequences of your words. And we need to continue to educate and raise awareness and lock arms with those who are affected by anti-Semitic hate. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you listening. Thank you for your support. Just so you're aware, as this show ends today, I've been thinking about slightly changing the format. Not necessarily in terms of comments and how I speak. I'm still learning how to do this, episode 6. I'm still learning to be better at it. I'm taking inspiration from other folks who have done this before me and after me, both podcasters and radio hosts, Rush Limbaugh and Chris Spangle and all kinds of folks across the spectrum to do this in the best way. But maybe recording this a little more midweek and releasing it a little more midweek, maybe on Thursday. I'm going to ask you soon, my faithful listeners, to share your thoughts. Be looking for that. Thank you. Again, please like, share, subscribe. Anything you can do to help me continue to promote and grow this show means the world to me. Have a great week.